Hello, and thank you for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time to work on developing your English skills and personal growth. There was a period in my life when opening an English grammar book made my chest feel tight, like I was stepping into a fight that I was sure I could not win. Whenever I saw terms such as past perfect or future continuous, my mind became confused and I started to feel sleepy even before reading the first page. I truly believed that I simply did not have the ability to learn a foreign language, that English belonged to other people, and that I would always remain outside that world. It was not that I was lazy, it was that I felt completely powerless. The thing that frightened me most was not new words, but the endless rules that I could not understand the purpose of. At school, our teachers focused on making us memorize structures, as if grammar were a formula that had to be learned step by step without question. I wrote pages full of difficult patterns, and before every exam, I tried to force myself to remember all of them. I was able to choose the correct answers, yet deep down I had no real idea what I was actually writing. Only a few weeks later, everything I had memorized disappeared from my mind. Each time that happened, I quietly told myself that maybe I was just not intelligent enough. This cycle of trying and forgetting slowly damaged my confidence, and grammar turned into something I wanted to run away from. For a long time, I thought it was impossible to enjoy learning grammar, until one quiet afternoon at the library. I was sitting across from a man who looked around 50, and what surprised me was that he was smiling while studying. Out of curiosity, I glanced at his notebook and noticed that he was writing very easy English sentences. There were no complicated charts, just simple lines that sounded like parts of a story. I gathered my courage and asked him why he seemed so relaxed. He laughed softly and explained that he did not begin with rules. He liked to experiment with grammar through examples and real experiences from his own life. He told me that every structure is like a small instrument, and an instrument becomes interesting only when we actually use it to create something meaningful. His explanation was simple, but for me it felt like a light turning on in a dark room. That evening, instead of opening my old textbook filled with theory, I picked up a clean sheet of paper. I started writing easy sentences about myself and my daily routine. I wake up at 6, I brush my teeth, I drink coffee and check my phone. I said these sentences aloud, slowly, as though I was sharing my story with someone. For the first time, the present simple tense felt alive because it described my real life in English. I did not focus on definitions or rules, I simply paid attention to how the sentences were built. And for once, studying did not make me feel bored or tired. The following day, I decided to continue in a new way by talking about what had happened the day before. I woke up at 6, I brushed my teeth, I felt tired, but I went to work. I discovered that changing the form of the verb slightly could move the whole story into the past. I spoke to myself in English and sometimes laughed at how strange I sounded. I also watched videos with subtitles, stopped them, and repeated the lines while trying to understand the feeling behind each sentence. The past simple tense stopped being a rule on paper and became a tool to describe a real day from my life. In the past, every mistake made me ashamed, but slowly my perspective changed. When I used the wrong verb, I chose to ask why instead of criticizing myself. I began to see each error as a small teacher that came to help me notice what I had missed. I set very small and realistic targets. Only one grammar idea, one example, or one short paragraph per day. Sometimes I focused only on using a single preposition correctly, and I accepted that as progress. I no longer pushed myself to master everything within a short time. Moving slowly in this way surprisingly allowed me to improve much more steadily. After several months, I realized that I was using different tenses with less effort. I could describe my plans for the next day without feeling confused about which form to choose. A year later, grammar did not feel like a tall barrier anymore, but like a collection of tools that I could use when needed. I still made mistakes, yet I felt strong enough to share my ideas clearly. This confidence was very different from the satisfaction of passing an exam. It was the sense that I had gained control over the language in my own personal way. At one point, I needed to study parts of speech, and I knew that if I returned to my old memorizing habit, I would give up again. Instead of repeating definitions of nouns, adjectives, and adverbs, I made up amusing sentences. Wow, the red dog jumped on the table and barked loudly. I examined every word carefully to see which ones named things, which ones described them, and which ones explained how actions happened. Because the sentence was funny, it stayed in my memory for a long time. I finally understood that parts of speech are not lists to memorize, but roles that words play inside a complete picture. If you feel nervous about grammar the way I once did, I want to share something honest with you. You do not have to master all the tenses in a short period. Begin with your present reality and describe what you are doing today. Then talk about what happened yesterday. After that, speak about what you plan to do tomorrow. These small actions will make grammar feel more real and less distant. Different tenses will simply become different ways to tell your own story. I used to be the kind of person who avoided grammar whenever possible. I truly believed that learning English well was beyond my ability. Yet small sentences, small corrections, and small daily practice slowly changed my path. If someone as shy and unsure as I was can transform grammar into a useful skill, then you are capable of doing the same. Perfection is not required. Curiosity is enough. Speed is not necessary. Consistency matters more. Just one sentence each day, one clear example, one tiny step forward. Eventually, you'll notice that grammar is no longer blocking your way. Instead, it becomes a kind of superpower that allows you to express your thoughts, share your experiences, and walk into the world with a level of confidence you once thought was impossible. If you find this video interesting and helpful, please give me a like and subscribe.